Yo, yo, Alpha Rhythm here, and I am here today with High Pass Resources, and we are going to bring you a track breakdown of my Falling remix for Akuratyde. And before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to give you a brief overview of the song, how the song came about, because I think just as interesting as the production side of things is everything that goes on around the production, right? Especially when it comes to remixes, I think there's usually an interesting story behind the remix. Maybe not always, but in this case, I think some of the details surrounding the remix would be interesting, especially to any aspiring producers out there. So typically, what you'll do with the remix, or what I've done in the past, is I will approach an artist like Dan Akuratyde and ask him to do a remix for one of my songs. I'll offer them a sum of money, and I will buy the remix out from them, basically. So I would own the rights to the remix. They would get a one-time lump sum, and then myself and the record label would then own the rights to the music and therefore receive any royalties from that. That was not the case with the remix that I did for Dan Akuratyde. I had approached him to do a remix for me, and he said, "Well, why don't we do a remix swap?" Which, again, that's not uncommon. Oftentimes, artists will do that, and I was a little hesitant at first because it's kind of nice just to be able to pay someone and they do the remix and not having to worry about delivering something of your own. I really, really like Akuratyde's production. Obviously, that's why I asked him to remix one of my songs. And I think he's just, yeah, an amazing producer, a criminally underrated producer. You know, albums on Blue Martin Music, Microfunk Music, Bop's label. Just amazing, amazing production style. So varied and eclectic and such beautiful music. And to have him put one of his babies, one of his songs in my hands and asking me to remix it, I was a little intimidated. But I did agree to do it, and he sent me two songs. And my issue is when it comes to remixes, once I hear a song, I have a hard time unhearing it, right? So I don't like hearing a song before I remix it. That might sound weird to you if you've never done a remix before, or maybe it just sounds weird to you in general. But I know I'm not the only producer that feels that way. I like to listen to as little of the song as possible before I remix it. He sent me two tracks. One was like 130 BPM and one was 160. And I picked the 160 tune solely based on the fact that it was closer to 174, which is typically the BPM I produce at. So didn't really listen to the song, maybe listened to like 15, 20 seconds of it. I was like, I'll take that. And that was Falling off of Head First. And yeah, this is a part of the Head First Remix album. An amazing remix album, I'll just say that now. It's got remixes from some other incredible artists, including my favorite producer, Bop, is on the album as well. So his single, his remix was the lead-off single from the album, and then my Falling remix just came out. That was the second single from the album. So that's a little bit about how we got started with it. I'm going to go through the whole track, show you how I built it, starting with Dan Akuratyde's stems and kind of moving down from there. Really nothing crazy fancy in this song. If you've ever watched any of my track breakdowns before, that's kind of the theme. I like to keep it simple, you know, that's kind of my motto, keep it simple, stupid. I'm not some crazy sound wizard. I really focus on sample selection, basic music theory, and I try to kind of demystify the process. You know, you don't have to be some sound design wizard in order to make beautiful, effective liquid drum and bass. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let me turn up the song a bit. Just had it playing in the background there in the intro. And we'll start with Dan's stuff. Again, I didn't want to hear the song beforehand, right? So he sends me the stems, and the first thing I do is I gut the stems, right? I get the pieces of the song, and I basically delete all the drums and the bass, and I try to find like the main melodic elements. And just by looking at the names of the stems, I can easily see that the riff main, that's going to be our main melody from the song. So this here, um, not a whole lot of processing on it. This is what you're going to see on the vast majority of channels is some reverb, some EQ, maybe some saturation, maybe some delay here and there. Mostly stock Ableton. I think I use Serum and Hive are the only plugins I used in this. So that was kind of the main meat of the song. Is this riff, right? There's not a whole lot else melodically happening. What's this synth build up? You know, we've got this happens every, like 49 bars or so, looks like. Another 32 bars there, 32 bars. Anyways, we've got that. We've got some risers I kept. We've got this loop where I have quiet kind of in the intro. It comes in at 65 bars. Um, It's pretty cool. I like it. Anything on it? No, nothing. No processing whatsoever. Some pads, nothing fancy. Spacey melody. Yeah, nothing, no processing on that. Then we have this vocal, which I kept from the original song. Has a little bit of saturation on it. Big fan of the A Bit Warmer saturator on in Ableton. So we have this. Which one of Dan's notes was it was too quiet, which is why there's a saturation on it. And it is pretty cool. Kind of a little fun sound that plays throughout the original and the remix. And then I have this kind of interspersed between those. I reversed the sample and put some delay and reverb on it. I have just this is essentially the same thing. This one's 3 dB quieter than this one, but that plays between just to fill the gaps. It's very quiet, and it's just a little something. Here I'll play this one. It's a little bit louder, like I said, about 3 dB louder. So I kept that from the original song, and then we have these other vocals, which I've done a lot of fun things, fun but simple. Again, keep it simple, stupid. I've like time stretched them and reversed them, and again, there's probably some reverb and delay on them. So just let's see this here. And then twice as slow. This is stretched even further. It's just adding some atmospherics. I do this a lot in my songs. Again, if you watch any of my track breakdowns, I take samples and I time stretch them a bunch and I put a bunch of reverb and delay on them. I kind of turn elements that originally weren't pads into pads. So, and that's just another example of me doing that. So I think they're all reversed except for this one, right? So unless this is the reverse. No, that's the original. And then what is this? FX original sample. Just some other atmosphere and pads I brought to it. So yeah, that's this is actually stuff I brought to it myself. So these first 20 or so, yeah, 20 stems, those are all from the original. Not a whole lot there. And I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. But, it wasn't a ton to build off of. I know a lot of people would probably agree with me. It's kind of easier to remix songs with like vocals. Vocal songs tend to be the easiest ones to remix. This one was a little bit challenging to remix. Again, I was a little intimidated. Let's get into the drums. Again, simple stuff. Loops. It's all, loops, chopped up loops. It's all about sample selection, how we layer the loops. It's very, very little processing on anything. We've got a teeny tiny itsy bit of reverb on the drum group, kind of tying it all together. We have an EQ, which is just automated. That EQ You can see, there's some like sweeps, filter sweeps. There's a filter sweep before the second drop. There's a filter sweep down during the middle of both of the drops, and a filter sweep down at the end. And I don't think is there any? Yes, there's a little bit of a reverb that comes in before the drop. The drums get real wet before the drop. The drums get real wet here and real wet there as well. So, other than that, we've got automation on the on each of the channels. Do we have much automation? Let's see. Yeah, just some EQ. I don't think there's a whole lot happening with with any of the channels. There's a little bit. This is just a delay hit with some EQ on it. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So yeah, let's get into the drums here. So it's so simple. Everything is so simple. You've got these 3 loops playing together. It's this one. No nothing on this channel, right? No EQ, nothing. We've got this one, which I've taken out a lot of the low end of, and we've got this, which I'm just mostly using. I kind of scooped out a pretty big scoop around 100 hertz. I kind of wanted this part of the kick and this really low end part of the kick, and that's it. That's all I'm getting from this. At the drop, we have another top layer come in. And my whole thing is every 16 bars, layers need to be coming in, they need to be leaving. It goes for drums, it goes for everything. Like, we need to be moving the song along every 16 bars. You can see there's a little drum edit there. So here, add another layer. And eventually it gets a little busy, so we do lose this layer. You don't want to have drums on drums on drums on drums on drums. Sometimes removing a layer can be just as effective as adding a layer. Here we have another layer come in. Just this little shuffle. And then we'll go to here. We've got. And again, this comes out at that time. So you put it all together. One other thing is we have these delayed bits, which is kind of fun. That carries over in the second drop, and we have this little delayed hit here. Yep, and again, combined with that filter sweep there, we've got. Bam. Just a little something. That was a very late addition, that filter sweep up there. There's also a little bit of volume automation. Sometimes when you do filter sweeps, you get like weird clipping and stuff, and volume automation can kind of help you help prevent that. Do I have any volume on? Yeah, before the second drop, I do a little bit. Sometimes that kick will just clip when you do a filter sweep. I asked Willem why that happens once, and he told me he didn't know. And he's not to throw shade at Willem, but that's just to say, like, Willem is an amazing, does a ton of mastering for a bunch of labels. I'm like, how come when I do a filter sweep up before a drop, I keep getting this weird clipping with my kick? And he's like, I don't know, just do volume automation. That was his solution to that. So yeah, the drums are so simple in this song, and they're crisp and they're tight and they sound great, I think. Anyways, not to toot my own horn, but keep it simple, stupid. Like, I'm not programming my drums in MIDI. It's just a matter of finding the right samples to complement one another. Real tight, sharp drums. The right. It's not muddy. Everything's layered right. And when I felt that things were getting a little too busy with the drums, I simply removed a layer here. At bar 81, some filter sweeps, some delays, some reverb. Simple tools, right? What are we using? EQ, filter, delay. Or EQ, reverb, delay. It's that simple, and we're doing some edits here and there, like right here. just keeping things moving along, nice and crisp, energetic, simple stuff. So that's the drums. Keep it simple, stupid. Bass line maybe gets a little more complex. I think we'll go ahead. We'll start with the MIDI. Well, the MIDI for the first 32 bars is very simple. It is an F. It's four layers of this F. So we've got this serum layer. We've got this serum layer. We've got this serum layer. And we've got this serum layer. Oops, sorry about that. So, yeah, this first one, it's just, obviously, it's just a sine wave. It's very simple. That's just our sub bass. And then we've just got a couple stock serum patches, 8-bit FWAP, dark weight DMB, and Dizzy. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's really the majority of our bass line there. Then we have all these fun bass samples, which, again, so originally it was like this F, and then it was like a foghorn, right, in these little gaps. And Dan was like, no, the foghorn, it's overdone, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I've never used a foghorn in any of my songs, and I don't really listen to a lot of like foghorny drum and bass. So, and I guess maybe it is cliche at this point, but anyways, he invited me to revisit the bass line, and in fact, he had me change the key of the song as well. I had the song in C minor originally, and the song, as he wrote it, was in F minor. So if you know anything about the circle of fifths or even a Camelot wheel, right? So if we're looking at a Camelot wheel, C minor would be 5A and F minor would be 4A. So they're relative minors. It's just one spot away on the Camelot wheel. But he wanted me to do the song in F minor. So I had to change the key of the song, which we'll get a little more into that when we get into my synth lines, because I had to completely rebuild those. And the song originally dropped on a C. And if you know anything about dropping on a C, some subwoofers, some systems cannot hit that low C. Dropping on an F is a nice, big, meaty, juicy bass note. So that's where we ended up dropping. So not only did I have to remove the foghorn, but I had to kind of reinvent the entire bass line and the entire synth line, everything we're about to get into. So anyway, I really struggled with this bass line, but I found some samples, I think on Splice or Loop Cloud or somewhere, I forget where, and just some fun stuff. And I time stretched them, and I think I pitched some up and down a little bit. Like this is up one semitone. That's the thing I do with samples a lot. If I get them from, say, Splice or wherever. Here, I'm just going to play the bass line, just so you can kind of hear it by itself. I will modify the samples in a way that they're kind of unrecognizable as the original. And this is what I came up with. Again, so things are pitched up, things are pitched down, they're reversed. This is reversed here. And I just kind of layered them up and chopped them up in a fun little way. And I think the end result was something neat. So on the bass group, all we have is this utility gain automation, which it's basically a sidechain. So this little shape that I have drawn in here, it's as simple as doing this, third shape, and then boop. That, again, keep it simple, stupid. That's basically sidechain compression for the kick. So if you were to look at, the drums here, you can see this is when the kick is hitting, and there's that just is scooping out some space in the big, weighty low end of the kick to make room for the the low end of the bass to make room for the low end of the kick. So simple stuff. There's a number of ways you can do that. I always draw in You have a little more control over it when you do it that way, I feel. I always draw in my sidechain compression with the utility gain automation. So I've got that there. That's it. That's all that's on the group. And then as we go through, we can see each individual channel. Nothing on this channel, looks like. So this channel, just this, whew, it's nice. I like it. So we've got that. We've got this, which is a reversed bass hit, and it's got EQ8 on it and some nice a nice amount of reverb on it. So, and that kind of builds up into this, right? So we put those two together, and again, we're kind of getting one piece of the puzzle at a time here. Um, we'll put these three together. So again, we just have this. Again, this one. No, this one's got just a little EQ on it. Nothing crazy. Um, so and we'll add this layer. We'll go ahead here. So yeah, and then one more layer here. We'll jump ahead to here. And yeah, this by itself. Yeah, cool stuff, cool sounds, and just kind of layering them, chopping them up, reversing them, adding reverb, adding EQ, simple stuff. Just having to play with things until I found something that sounded cool. Um, so, and we have like a, a different sample that plays out here during the second drop, which is just kind of some fun stabs and stuff like that. Um, so nothing crazy, just some like tons of delay on this one. It's just like filling out the mix some. Like it's not going to be really noticeable when you are listening to the whole song, right? Like let's let the whole song play. You can hear all the delayed reverb elements playing out here. So all those elements are there in the mix. Again, this is kind of like an alpha rhythm thing, I think, is like I just like add a lot of reverb and delay to stuff. And it just kind of like is it fills out the mix and it's like ear candy. Like it's not an element you're gonna latch onto, but it's there, right? And then if you removed it, you might then be like, oh, it feels like something's missing, right? But it's not this like concrete element, melodic element that you're latched onto. But I feel like again, it's just part of my kind of trademark sound is adding a lot of like swimmy, reverby, delayed out, dubbed out stuff, right? Second part of the bass line, uh, I'm trying to rack my brain to remember what it originally sounded like, and I don't. Um, but we're using all the same elements. We do add one more bass. It's BA Dark White DMB. Actually, it's not exactly a new element. We have it here. We're just doubling it up. It's in a different octave, so it's one octave higher, and it's got a bunch of reverb on it, right? Um, and it's very quiet, but yeah, this we'll we'll come back to that actually. Oh, there's one little. This is from a Total Science sample pack that I've had for a good jillion years. I don't know. It, play, it plays it plays a few times throughout the song. Um, we'll come back to the second part of the bass line in a sec because I want to talk about the synth. Oh, and then there's a little riser, a 16 bar riser bit. That's gonna play as the song drops, and it's gonna play right before the second drop. It's got a ton of reverb on it. See that 60 seconds of decay, because that's how we do things. All right, so let's talk about the synth real quick. So yeah, the first 32 bars of the drop are quite oppressive, heavy, um, certainly heavier than what I typically do, right? And I really wanted to bring through, like, this is an alpha rhythm remix, right? So I wanted to do something for the second 32 bars of the drop that felt very alpha rhythmic, I suppose. And I know a lot of people really like my song Star-Crossed, and I kind of went in like a Star-Crossed direction, if you're familiar with that song, with this synth line. And I love it. I love this kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, it's in a lot of my music. Just these big synth lines. And I simply just get out my MIDI keyboard and just start playing. Just start hammering away. Again, this is completely different than the first version of the song because the first one was in C minor. And in fact, I think this one's a million times better. And we can go through the process or the stems real quick, but it's just layers. I think it's all in Hive. So yeah, this is the first one, and the volume comes up. It builds in intensity, right? So what do we got? Just reverb, right? Nothing on that. Just reverb on this. This one has some EQ, reverb, saturation. It's kind of a funky sound. And each taken by themselves. This one's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Then we have these, which are just kind of reverbed out elements. So again, all of them taken by themselves they don't sound great by themselves, but we put them all together, I think they sound fantastic. And we do have this swell, right? So that F kind of starts coming in almost 16 bars before it really hits at bar 65. I like it. You know, it is that trademark alpha rhythm. But with that being said, we needed to move away from that, like that just big honking, like aggressive F bass line. And to do that, again, we just kind of moved into a more traditional, like liquidy bass line, right? So everything switches up pretty significantly at bar 65. And I should say the second drop is pretty much identical to the first drop, so we really don't need to look at the second drop. So drums delay out, filter sweep back in on the drums. And that's it. I mean, it's not complicated stuff. It's just this progression. And it's very simple. Like I said, keep it simple, stupid. I didn't design, any of these sounds from scratch. They're all stock, whatever plugins for Hive, Serum. Yeah. Could it be that simple? I think so. And that's pretty much it. That's my Falling remix. I really have to thank Dan Akuratyde again for asking me to do this, for putting it out as one of the singles, and for pushing me to do better, because I really do believe that this version of the remix is far better than the first version that I sent to him. I was happy with that version. Obviously, I wouldn't have sent it to him and said, hey, here's your remix if I wasn't happy with it. But he really invited me to go back to the drawing board to do better. And I do appreciate that. It was challenging. This remix was, which is part of the reason I wanted to do this breakdown, not because, again, it's overly complicated or anything, but because it was a process, right? It was something, not necessarily like a collab like you would think of right? This wasn't a collab with another artist, but he did give me feedback and invite me to push myself, and that's a lot of times what I need a second set of ears on my music. Oftentimes that's my wife, but I need someone to tell me, what are your thoughts on this? I've listened to this 100 times now. I need a fresh set of ears, and that's oftentimes what it takes me to kind of get something over the top and get it to the point where I'm 100% happy with it. So, and I am very happy with this song. Um, I really, really couldn't be happier. So, nothing fancy about it. It is really just a matter of refining and twiddling knobs and going back and listening again. And I listen to my car, I listen in my AirPods, I have a set of Bose headphones, I have some AKG headphones, I have a hi-fi setup in my living room, and I have a sound bar on my TV. I'll listen to, or on my laptop, your phone, your phone speakers, even, like, just listening in as many environments, and like and as different headspaces too. Like I'll listen to a song, days later, where I'm in a different mental, spiritual, emotional state, and it'll sound completely different to me. So, and the end result is this. This one took several months to complete. Some of my songs I finished in a day. Some of them I finished over the course of 3 months. This was one that was a little laborious in the process, but again, couldn't be happier with the result. So that's it for me. Thank you all so much for listening. Thanks again to Shane from High Pass Resources for asking me to do this. I hope you got something out of this. You can reach me on all my socials, Algorithm DMB, Instagram. Also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/algorithm, or you can just go to alpharhythm.com. You can find all my music on there, links to my podcast, my Patreon, my two podcasts. I actually have two podcasts. In fact, I just did a podcast with this man, Dan Akuratyde, if you want to hear that. And I've got some other great artists lined up for the Algorithm and Friends podcast in the future. So, yeah, that's it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and hope you enjoyed my remix of Akuratyde Falling, which is out now on Head First Remix. Peace out.